Hey, your rentals sit inside of limited liability companies, and that's great. But is your crypto still sitting in a hot wallet or on an exchange with your name on it? Get this, one breach or one lawsuit and both worlds can collide. Today, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to keep your digital assets offline, segregated, and out of reach from your personal creditors. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what am I referring to here? I'm referring to an offline LLC structure. It's a dedicated company separate from your other entities whose sole job is to provide custody of your crypto investments. Listen, keys are generated on air-gapped devices stored in multiple locations and moved only under written rules. The Cold Storage LLC never commingles with your rental property, your businesses, your payroll, your flips. It stays completely segregated and protected. So, what am I referring to here when I'm talking about a cold storage limited liability company? Well, this is what you want to do if you have crypto and you're looking for some of the best protection you can provide yourself for this type of asset and staying here within the United States. So here's what we do. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you get an entity out of your name. So that requires that you set up your entity in a state such as Wyoming, where your information is not going to be listed on the entity. So step number one would be to create a Wyoming LLC. So we set up a Wyoming LLC. Now, when you're setting up the LLC, some things you need to be aware of when you're creating this for your crypto, if you truly want to make this an offline entity, that requires that none of your personal information shows up on this LLC filing. Otherwise, everyone's going to know that it's you and you have this. And the thing about the strategy I'm about to share with you, it all falls back on having a sound asset protection and an anonymity structure. So the thing about Wyoming is that it does not collect any information on the members or managers of that entity. So if I was setting up a Wyoming LLC, I would serve as the manager and I would serve as the member. Now, obviously, if you have a spouse, you can put your spouse in there as well. But to suffice to say, I just want to let you understand the purpose of this right now. So you sit in these two positions. Now, when you're filing the LLC and you're getting it set up online, well, this information isn't requested. The only thing you need to provide is the name of the entity. That's simple. So you come up with your name. A registered agent, that's not going to be you. You have to use a third party here. Then you have to have an address for the entity. Now, this is where people run into problems. They use an address that is associated back to them. So if you want to set up this type of offline entity, you need to use a virtual business address. Okay, we provide these here at Anderson when we create the crypto limited liability company specifically set up with this offline for cold storage feature. Here, we're going to provide a virtual business address that is not associated back to the individual that is creating the structure. So that's key right here to have this VBA. The second thing you want to make sure when you're setting up this entity is that you're not doing it on your own. Because if you set it up on your own, then you will have to sign the articles that get filed, and that's how someone can trace you. So the other thing you want to make sure you're doing here is you use a third party to set this entity up, okay? So it's not you. Virtual business address, third party, registered agent. Three key things here in setting up this type of limited liability company. Now, after you've set up the LLC, that's just the first part in what you're going to be doing with this structure. The second thing you need to do after you've got the LLC set up is you got to get a bank account set up for your limited liability company. You're going to put some funds into there. So you're going to open up a bank account, move some money in. Then you're going to open up an account with an exchange. Now, here's what you need to do when you're opening up the account with the exchange. To make this work, to make this a business asset that puts it beyond the reach of your creditors, you have to open up the account under the name of the LLC. Now, that's not going to be a problem because your LLC provides you anonymity. So when you set up the account, you set it up under the LLC name, virtual business address. You're going to provide the EIN for that business entity to get that exchange account set up. All right. So we've got that done. You got your bank account, the exchange account, all that's set up. Your LLC is there. You have a written operating agreement. You've got the storage rules built into that operating agreement. Now, here we go to the most important part about this. So your crypto is currently online. You need to get the online crypto, you need to get it moved into the account under the name of the LLC. And then what you need to do is set up your air-gapped wallet with multi-sig authority. Okay, so you want to get an air-gapped wallet with multi-sig. Okay, now, when you go through the process of opening up your wallet, creating your account, you want to make sure you do this under the name of that LLC. So the LLC owns it. You see, the number one mistake that I see with crypto investors is they keep their cold storage wallet in their individual name, and they never set it up under the LLC name. The problem with that is that if you were ever sued and someone was able to bring you into court and they were to ask you, do you have any crypto? If it's under your name, the answer to that is yes. So in order to take that out of your name and get it protected, we need to get it opened in the name or set that wallet up under the name of the limited liability company. So why do you want multi-sig? Now, here's the issue that really comes into play here, providing you some protection. So I was recently speaking to a friend of mine who's a bankruptcy attorney, and we were talking about, what happens if I had a client that filed for bankruptcy and they have a cold storage wallet? He said, well, we could take that. I said, well, how do you gain access to it? Well, we could force them to give us access to the wallet. But I said, but what happens if they can't provide you access? He said, well, how would that happen? I said, maybe it requires 2 out of 3 people to open up that wallet. And if one person files for bankruptcy, how do you force one of those other 2 to do it? Okay, now he was kind of stumped on that, and he gave me this off-the-cuff answer, oh, we're the bankruptcy trustees, we can do that. Not necessarily. First, you got to figure out who they are, and then you're going to have to go get a subpoena, bring them into court, and try to force them to turn over that information. Now, maybe they have a bad memory and they lose it. So you could stop someone from gaining access to your wallet. The whole purpose in setting it up with multi-sig authority is that it makes it extremely difficult for a creditor to get after your assets. That is, if they're coming after you, they're going to realize, hey, this is a mountain that I don't want to climb, that there is no good outcome for me at the end. So my best recourse here in this situation where I'm dealing with somebody who has set up an LLC, that first I'd have to penetrate it. And even if I could penetrate that limited liability company, I can't penetrate their cold wallet because that one individual does not control the ability to have access by themselves. Because what you will have done is when you're setting up this limited liability company, you will have nominated 2 other people that you trust and given them that SIG authority over that wallet. Now, again, you have to trust them. So what do we do here? Well, one thing you would do is you would name them in your LLC as officers. Make them officers of the LLC. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, Clint. You said if a creditor's coming after me, can't they just get the officers of the LLC? No. In my example, what I'm talking about is you're being sued personally. So someone's coming after you personally. They're not suing the LLC. The LLC doesn't do anything, right? It just holds this investment. So in that case, the LLC is not being sued. So the question is, they're trying to put pressure on you. These individuals are independent because they're officers of your LLC. So remember, this limited liability company is only being set up for your crypto. You're not going to be using it for any other purpose, that could bring liability back to it, to ensure that this type of protection will exist should you find yourself in a lawsuit. So by setting up this Wyoming limited liability company, you're essentially taking your business offline because they don't know it's you. You're protecting your crypto with that air-gapped wallet that's in the name of that LLC itself and not in your name. And you're making sure they're not doing anything crazy inside of that LLC other than the crypto investing, so you keep it away from any types of attacks. Listen, if you got crypto, this is your strategy. And if you want to learn more, we have a department that we have set up here in Anderson that works with people who are investing in crypto, and we're creating these structures for them on a daily basis to protect their assets. Check out the show notes. There is a link below to set up a strategy session and get your crypto out of the hot wallets into a cold wallet storage situation, which provides you the most protection for your investments. Take care.